Well, good evening once again, beautiful jazz musicians of University Prep. Welcome to another edition of tonight's Vinyl Delights. So, as you recall, last night we had a special guest with us. Ty Talbot came on and hipped us to some really awesome Alice Coltrane. And I had such a great time hanging with Ty and talking music with him that I decided let's have another special guest. So tonight, another face that might be familiar to some of you because he has worked at the school sometimes, and we've played a bunch of his arrangements. So even if he doesn't look familiar, you know his music. This is Nate Omdahl, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing, Nate?
Pretty good, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, I really appreciate you coming on. And Nate was one of the first people after I started posting these on Facebook to start making requests. And a couple days ago, he said, "Hey, have you played any Blakey?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, now's the time." So here we are. This is our album for tonight. This is Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, Free for All. This is, they put out a lot of records. Art Blakey had this band for, I don't know what, 30 years, 40 years? I don't even know. He led this band forever. They put out a lot of records. This one is way up there in my estimation, and apparently in Nate's as well. So, Free for All, Art Blakey. I think this was 1961, maybe? Does that sound about right?
Something like that.
Like that. And the song that Nate has chosen to feature is a Wayne Shorter composition called Hammerhead, which you hear playing in the background. So, Nate, let us know what's up with this. Why Free for All? Why Hammerhead? Tell us. Give us a story here.
First off, this band, if you hold back the LP up again so you can see who's on it one more time.
Oh yeah.
Like a murderer's row of a band. So you've got like Freddie Hubbard and Curtis Fuller when they've been playing for a little while, and you've got Wayne Shorter when he's relatively young. Cedar Walton and Reggie Workman are just coming up as well, and then Blakey's been leading the thing forever, and they just are just in such a super strong mode on this record. And the tune Hammerhead that I chose is just really, really sick, and it's got this little chromatic little passage in there where it walks up and then it walks back down again, and you can hear all the players just having so much fun with that, because when something does that, you can either choose to go with it, or you can kind of just choose to go with it and everything will kind of work out, because it doesn't last very long and it's just kind of chromatic, and you can just hear all these different choices that they make right when they get to that moment. And Blakey's just blasting away on that track. I mean, that's him at his finest right there. And there's a handful of records.
Absolutely.
There's a handful of records this band does, and I just think this one's just the strongest one. It's a studio one, and they just are killing.
There's 4 tunes on this record, 2 tracks per side. There's like 10 minutes per track. And, you know, as Nate said, they're blowing and going so hard from the start of this record to the end of this record. Every single song is just a powerhouse. Just tear your head off of fantastic songwriting, fantastic arranging, fantastic playing. Just, it's got it all.
I mean, all these players have just had such distinguished careers on their own that this is kind of one of those, you know, Miles Davis always gets the credit for being a band leader that started all these things, but Art Blakey's right there with him in terms of how many musicians he mentored as a band leader with people that were up and coming. And this is, I just think, one of his finest bands. You know, if Miles Davis has his 3, I'd put this one in Art Blakey's 3 for sure.
Yeah, and as we've talked about in class, Blakey would, you know, he would bring these young cats in and say, write all the songs, do all the arrangements, take over and do your thing. And then when they would get to some level of success, he would boot them out. He would like, you're on, go, form your own damn band now, and I'll get the next guy. And so he did that for like 40 years. So this was just one of those moments where the stars aligned and you had this collection of musicians. It's just nuts. And then you got Rudy Van Gelder on the engineering and the mastering. You've got Alfred Lyon behind the controls as the producer. You've got Reed Miles designing the cover art. I mean, it's the total package. And this, by the way, just FYI for the geeks in the room, first stereo pressing, Plastilite pressing plant. It's got it all, baby. I got this at Easy Street Records in West Seattle last year. Great record store. If you've not been down to Easy Street, well, you can't go there now, of course, but go there when they open, when we all open it back up. So this is Hammerhead that we're listening to. when you check the track out, see if you can hear what Nate was talking about that chromatic passage. See if you can find it in each solo, and then compare how each soloist deals with that particular moment in the song. That's really a great insight, Nate. And he would mention something about Reggie Workman too, right?
Yeah, so this was one of the first records that I heard with the bassist Reggie Workman when I was at Cornish, and he's just laying it down on this record and on this track. And I was just doing some research to figure out who else he played with, and it ended up that he had worked with one of my teachers at the time who was at Cornish, Julian Priester, who, if you don't know, is someone to definitely check out because he's an absolute legend and he's local, and you can probably just hit him up on Facebook or something and say, hey, I heard you on this and you sound great, and he might get back to you because he's just hanging out. But anyway, so I found this record that Reggie Workman led in the 90s that Julian was on with him called Summit Conference. And it's just an equally incredible band. All the players are coming from a little bit more of a free jazz school, sort of like the Alice Coltrane stuff you listened to yesterday. Mm-hmm. And you hear a whole different style of playing and arranging, but again, they're just blowing their heads off on this record. And I've included a little clip of them playing a concert, and you can see Julian in there from, I think it was from '98. And this record, I had to, I think I won it on eBay, one of the CDs, because it was out of print and I didn't know where to get it. And I ended up showing it to Julian, and he kind of had this little smile. He's like, oh yeah, that's a good one. You know, just kind of, he's a real kind of quiet guy, and it's a great record if you get a chance to hear it.
Right on. We'll definitely put that in the comments along with Hammerhead. So now you got 2 songs to check out tonight from with both featuring the great Reggie Workman, who went on to play with John Coltrane and so many others. Like
the good, yeah, it works out good with Alice.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope you dig this record. If you're into this kind of like hard driving jazz, it doesn't get any better, and you should check out the rest of the record. There's a song on here called "The Core," which is just phenomenal. The title track is great. They're all great. And then they do a old standard Pensativa, which is beautiful too. So check it out. Art Blakey, Free for All.
Look at him on the cover. He's just going for it.
So
He's
good,
going
right?
for it.
So good. Just the best. And I remember I've read a bunch of I know a lot of the I've studied all the trumpet players that play with Blakey, and so I've read a lot of the stuff that they've talked about, and I've talked with some of them, and they all say that Blakey was the loudest musician they have ever shared a bandstand with. And if you didn't rise to the challenge, he would just bury you. And so these guys, they definitely rose to the challenge. All right, Nate. Hey, man, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you so much. It's great, just to talk to
pleasure.
So immersed in the music and just, having connections to Julian Priester. It's just wonderful. So thank you. I would love to have you on again. Pick another one and we'll do it again, man.
Yeah, I can't wait. This is fun. This was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a wonderful time digging this Art Blakey record, and I'll catch you tomorrow on tonight's Vinyl Delights.